today we have Mrs. Comfort with us and taking us through a very important topic. The topic says valuing teachers' voices towards new school contracts for education. So Mrs. Comfort is going to be taking us through this, and I'm going to be asking some questions how she takes the topic. But before she comes up, she has a very profound profile I would like to share. I want us to hear it. So Mrs. Comfort, Jemima Chibuike, is a woman of many parts. She has authored a number of books, is an author, and she has authored a number of books, including Into the Light, Jemmy's Dream, A Stitch in Time, and a number of other books. She has also held different posts as a publisher, a ghostwriter, a reviewer, and contributor at Cambridge University Press. She's also the editor at International Book Editor IBET. She's a speaker, a compere, a content provider, the CEO of Jemima Publishing House. She's also the associate lecturer, EMDE Shipping and Maritime College. She's a British Council Master Trainer, an IELTS trainer, HOD of Languages, the General Secretary of ELTAN Lagos Chapter, and she has a wealth of experience of 33 years in teaching English language at all the strata of the educational spectrum. This is really profound, and we're really honored to have someone with a lot of experience take us through this topic today. You're welcome, Mrs. Comfort. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you, Precious. Thank you so much for the honor I've been given to speak this evening. I am so happy to be here. So, first of all, I'd like to say that it's going to be a little bit of interactive. I'll throw some questions and expect you to answer in the chat box if you don't mind. I hope you don't mind.
No,
so,
I don't
our
mind.
topic for this year, yes, the theme for this year's World Teachers Day is valuing teacher voices towards a new social contract for education. Before that, I would want to ask you to just put in a sentence or two, what do you think a teacher is, or who do you think a teacher is? Quickly put a sentence in the chat box. Let me see, please. Your own definition, or how you would explain to somebody if you are asked, who is a teacher? What would you say? Okay, Mojisola Ogunlano, thank you. A teacher, tutors, and guides, okay. Can I have other responses? Okay, while I'm waiting for the others. So, who is a teacher? A teacher is an individual who instructs students in academic subjects, skills, and values. Mr. Popola, the next slide, please. Okay, Olamide, a teacher is an investor of knowledge, a leader who is, okay, I couldn't get the remaining. Okay, an investor, good. So, a teacher facilitates learning, growth, and development. A teacher inspires curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity, guides students to achieve their full potential, creates engaging, inclusive, and supportive learning environments. Now, all these I've stated are just a tip of the iceberg of who a teacher is. We all know that a teacher encompasses so much more than what I've put down, because we serve as doctors in school, as a lawyer when we judge cases among students. We are counselors. We do so many things, all wrapped in one. So that is why we are unique in our different ways as teachers. Next slide, please. I really need to be fast because I've wasted so much time. Next slide, please. Okay, what is the reality about teachers? Now, there is no gainsaying the fact that teachers are greatly overworked. We are highly undervalued. We are grossly underpaid. Second, most teachers are leaving the profession they love and that the world needs in droves. Why? Because nobody is listening to teachers. Nobody is listening to the inner voice of the teachers. Nobody is willing to ask, how are you doing? In what areas do you need intervention? Nobody is doing that. So you see that people are leaving the profession for other professions or for greener pastures. And that is why we have the jackpot syndrome, where you see most teachers. I know of 4 or 5 teachers who have left Nigeria for greener shores. So that is the reality. People don't think about teachers that we are worthy to be given the best of life. And of course, that makes young people not to aspire to become teachers. When you ask students in the class, what would you like to become in future? They'll reel off a number of professions. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a professor. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this. I want to be that. You would hardly see a child say, I want to be a teacher. But thankfully, on Friday, just on Friday, I saw one of my students who told me that because of me, because of how I taught them, how I impacted on them, he decided to become a teacher. And that was at the 30th anniversary reunion of my students I taught in 1994. So people don't want to be teachers because they feel teachers are poor, teachers don't amount to anything in the society. So that's the reality. And of course, our voices are not heard. We cry, we speak, we shout, we rumble, we do everything, but nobody is paying attention to us because they feel, who are these people? Do we need to listen to them? So we are not heard. And that is why we should now be intentional about making our voices to be heard. Next slide, please. Yes, this year's theme. I said, what about it? Now, this theme is germane, and it's important because teachers need to be heard. For so long, our voices have been drowned by voices of other professions. And when you want to come up to say something, you are shut down. Who are you? You are an ordinary teacher. When somebody says you're an ordinary teacher, I tell them, I am not an ordinary teacher. And of course, the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with people, your courage would show that, look, this person knows these are onions and nobody will rubbish you. So the theme underscores the urgency of engaging with teachers to address the challenges they face, but most importantly, to acknowledge and benefit from the expert knowledge and inputs they bring into education. Nobody gives us any due at all. They don't think we are knowledgeable. And that is why when decisions are to be taken, teachers are not put into cognizance. We are not recognized. Our voices are not heard. Now, there is also a need to establish a more robust and meaningful social dialogue. We need to dialogue. We need to make our voices heard. By the time I go into the other slide, you see how we can make our voices heard. Next slide, please. Mr. Popola, next slide, please. Challenges of teachers. The challenges are innumerable. I just decided to pick a few. Top on the list is poor remuneration. We are poorly remunerated. If you compare the salaries of teachers in Nigeria and, of course, some countries in Africa, you will see that we are way, way down there on the salary scale. I took a look at Finland's wages, salaries for teachers, and I discovered that in Finland, the teacher is given priority, even more than any other profession, because they understand the fact that without teachers, you can do nothing. Without teachers, of course, we cannot have any other profession. And until people come to that realization that they need to give ear to teachers, they need to pay attention to us, they need to give us those things that will make us bring out our best, then we'll still be joking, we'll be playing around in circles. So we have lack of teacher voice in decision making. I've talked about that earlier on, that we are not considered when decisions are to be taken. Take, for instance, recently, Professor Tahir said that we cannot have students entering university who are not yet 18. And there was a backlash, because how would you expect a child who left school at 15 or 16? You know, you cannot compare the cognitive ability of these children. Some are smart learners, okay? And you cannot say because they are smart learners, you keep them waiting at home for years on end. In other climes, I read about a young girl, she was just 17 and she had a PhD. You can imagine what would have happened in Nigeria if that girl had been in Nigeria. Of course, her dreams would have been cut short. So we are not allowed to take decisions. Then balancing teaching and administrative tasks. As a teacher, you'll be the one to teach. You, especially English language teachers, you'll be the secretary in the school. You'll be the one to organize debates, competitions, spelling bee, other competitions that have to do with the languages. You'll be the one to teach them how to dramatize plays. You'll be the one to do so many things. And the school, the management will be on your neck, expecting you to perform magic. So that's one of the challenges we have. Then, of course, heavy workload and long hours. In the public schools, we are lucky to some extent that we have those who employ to a certain extent, and we can have a number of teachers teaching English language, and they'll have to divide the scheme, or maybe somebody will take literature in English, the other person will take grammar, the other person will take comprehension and summary and all whatnot. But sometimes in the private sector, that's not the case. You have to teach so many classes at the same time, and you'll be expected to function well. We have diverse student needs and abilities. Our students can never be the same. We should know that. And of course, we have to be able to attend to each need of individual students. So that's another challenge we have. If a teacher is overwhelmed, you know, in an attempt to meet these needs, it is going to create problems. Then staying current with technological advancement. Most teachers are not tech savvy, and some are not willing to be tech savvy. So juggling the current technological advancement with the old methods that they are used to, you know, is not easy to change an old habit. So it's a problem for some people, and they find it difficult to adjust to the current realities. Next slide, please. Yes, why are our voices not heard? Now, the first thing is public perception. People don't think too well of teachers. Who are you? That's the next thing, a teacher. So nobody will listen. Then power dynamics. When politics comes into play, the politicians will prioritize what will benefit them than what will benefit teachers. So at the end of the day, the teacher will have the short end of the stick. And this will not augur well for us. Of course, there is a communication gap where we have the lacuna between the administrators and teachers. Administrators don't want to listen to teachers, and even if they do, they are unable to carry the information given to them to the higher authorities. So, and that will take us to information overload. Sometimes the government is overwhelmed by too many things at the same time, working on too many projects at the same time. So when something pertaining to teachers crops up, they may just put it at the bottom of the pile. They'll not listen. They'll say, okay, we'll attend to that later on. Liberty representation, that's the next one. And liberty representation has to do with the fact that teachers are not where they are supposed to be. They are not given the opportunity to be on boards where the voices can be heard, where they can make impact. They are not allowed to be fully represented. So at the end of the day, you discover that when you don't have somebody that can give voice to your concerns, when you don't have somebody that can speak your mind, you can only be there somewhere, but you don't have leaders that can do the correct representation. So that's one of the problems. Then we have bureaucratic structures, bottlenecks here and there. When you want to do something, they'll tell you, you are not the right person to say this. Even in the school system, the principal of the school, sometimes some of them are almighty, in quotes. And if a teacher should have a contrary opinion, even though it may be better than what they have, they will rather do that which they want to do than to listen to the teacher. They will rather use their own ideas than to pick the idea of a teacher, even though the idea may be sound. So that is another reason why our voices are not heard. Then, of course, lack of teacher autonomy. We have what we call micromanagement, where you have helicopter leaders. They are overshadowing us. They want to, impose what they want us to do. They will not allow us to have our own initiative in carrying out certain things, And if these things are not checked, we'll discover that the voices of teachers will keep on going down the drain. Next slide, please. I'm trying to meet up. Okay, how can teachers' voices be heard? Now, one thing we should understand is there is a global call to strengthen the profession, based on all what I've said earlier on, that teachers are not, given priority. Teachers are not considered to be worthy of attention by the government, by those in authority, by the leaders. So we see that we have a lot of problems. Okay, look at this issue of salary increase. Those in the House of Assembly, it doesn't take them 2 readings for the bill to be passed when they want to increase their own salaries, and whopping sums for that matter. But when we clamor for just a stipend, you will hear them say government has no money, whereas they are the ones taking the larger share of the cake, of the national cake. So government has to pay attention to teachers more than ever before in the following ways. One, active listening. You can hear somebody speak, but you may not listen to that person. So there is a world of difference between hearing and listening. So the government, they hear us when we shout, when we say this, when we say that, but they are not listening. Because when they listen, They'll listen to get information. They'll listen to know our desires and make themselves readily available to offer solutions. Number 2, prioritize teacher well-being and workload management. Now, teachers, most often than not, or more often than not, are not given priority at all. Even when you go to the hospital, somebody told me recently she went for her HMO, despite the fact that money was taken from her salary every month. When she got there, she told them she had typhoid symptoms. She told me that the nurse told her that, "Madam, you don't have typhoid." The lady told the nurse, "I know how I'm feeling." The nurse, the long and short of the whole story was that the nurse did not treat her. It was later we got to know that it was because of what they get. So they feel that the amount being paid to them as HMOs by the government is not enough for the drugs or the treatments that they will give teachers. So when the teacher's workload is reduced, a teacher who has a manageable workload will be more effective in carrying out his or her duties. Then opened up policies for education officers. If we had this, that you are free to go in and say, "Sir, madam, these are my observations. Can we do it this way? Or how can we do it so that we can arrive at this point?" So if we have opened up policies where you'll not be scared of being sacked if you give a voice to your concerns about what is going on in the educational sector, when you are sure that nobody will malign you, nobody will harass you, nobody will oppress you. When they tell you opened up policy, they mean opened up policy, not that it will be a shadow of the real thing. Then the next thing is to provide training and resources for teacher advocacy. Now, we have some groups for teacher advocacy. They are concerned about teacher welfare, how teachers can have the better part of the carrot and not the stick. Not the stick end, the carrot end. So when teachers are trained, they become better. And when they become better, they impact more on the students. And of course, the learning outcomes will become higher. The results will be better in the long run. Okay? The next one is support teacher autonomy and decision making. I've talked about that there should be teacher autonomy. Nobody should breathe down teachers' necks, and teachers should be allowed to take their own initiative about certain things. Establish teacher advisory board and feedback mechanism. Now, another problem is that there is no feedback mechanism. What that means is that government doesn't really sometimes know what is going on in the educational sector, because sometimes the feedback mechanism might be faulty. So, but when you have, because there's no way you can have communication without feedback. Feedback is when you know that, okay, something has been done, something has been heard. So when the feedback mechanism is in top gear, then we can be rest assured that our voices are being heard. Recognize and value teacher expertise and contributions. I think Lagos State government is doing something in that regard, because I saw, I think yesterday, the awards night where some of our TGPSs were giving awards for what they are doing. So when teachers are recognized, when we are valued, we tend to do more, because a happy teacher is a productive teacher. If a teacher is not happy, it will transcend to the teaching. there's no way out. If a teacher is unhappy from home, and the teacher gets to school, the teacher may not be able to put in his or her best on that particular day. So when teachers are given due recognition, it will make them happier. And last but not the least is foster collaborative relationships between teachers, administrators, and policymakers. There is a need for collaboration, which is one of the 21st century skills we have been talking about all this while. When there is a collaboration between the three arms, policymakers, administrators, of course, our principals and our head teachers in schools, and the policymakers, the government, when we have that collaboration, the educational system enjoys. The educational system is the better for it. Last slide, please. So call to action. As a teacher, how do you lend your voice to what is going on? You can join the global mobilization calling on government to engage in meaningful social dialogue with the profession. So there is a global call all over the world. The government, all the governments all over the world, they are being challenged to do better with the teaching profession. So in Nigeria, there's what we call Education International. So you can lend your voice to what is going on. So on World Teachers Day, you can post something on your Facebook, Instagram account, or on your X. So maybe later on when this the recording is given, you can see the slides. So we have at Edu INT on X, at Education International on Facebook, at Edu International on Instagram. But the caveat there is you put hash World Teachers Day. So when you add it, you are also lending your own voice. So you can air your views on what you feel should be done, how government too can listen to us and do better by us. Next slide, please. So you can see a beautiful heart made up of people. Those people there are the educators, we educators. So we are at the heart of education. Without teachers, there's nothing called education. So if we are at the heart of education, then we must also be at the heart of decision-making in education. So permit me to wish you happy World Teachers Day in advance. Last slide, please. Last slide. Yes, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ma. You've given us another beautiful perspective to the teaching profession. And in fact, you answered like a number of questions I would have loved to ask. Thank you for this session. I still have some
Thank
questions for
you.
you, Ma. Can I go ahead?
Okay.
Okay, so what kinds
Can
of
you
the
see me?
social
Precious, can you see me now?
like your own your screen or your video?
Can you see my video? Can you see my
No, your
video?
video is not on. No, it's not on.
Okay.
No, it's on. I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're looking radiant. Still
I'm
putting on your
seeing
suit.
you. I don't know why I can't see you from here.
Okay, you can't see me. Popo, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Your suit is looking nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can hear.
So can I have your questions, please?
Oh, all right, Ma. So my first question: What kinds of the social contracts within the educational field do you think teachers should be a part of? What kinds of the social contracts within the educational field do you think teachers should be a part of? That's the first question.
Okay, when you are talking about social contract, of course, social contract is the currency between us and the government. So I've talked about one, about advocacy groups. We can be part of advocacy groups that are after teacher welfare, after the education, that education should be better than what it is now. You know that if not that people rose up, people shouted, so to speak, you know, there was a lot of uproar on the internet space when Tahir brought that idea of students not going to school until not entering university until they are 18. That bill will have been passed and Nigeria will have been sent back maybe some 20, 30 years. So because teacher groups rose up all over the country to say, no, we will not accept this, they had no choice than to backtrack. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay, ma'am. Thank you very much. So you've spoke about the educational system voicing and projecting teachers' voices in this century, the nation supporting the projection of teachers' voices. Now, I'm looking at coming to our local level in our secondary schools, when it comes to teachers, between teachers. In an educational system that values tradition, hierarchy, and authority, what practical approaches can young educators take to contribute their perspective without being disrespectful or out of line? I don't know if my
Okay,
question.
thank you. Yes, I understand your question. Without being disrespectful, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, the problem we have is that the Gen Z, they are impatient more often than not. So most times they don't have that patience of explaining. They may have good ideas, but the approach may nullify whatsoever idea they have. So what I would say is, if you are a young teacher and you have an idea that can move the school forward, you could go through the ranks. Because in most schools, just like you mentioned, they are particular about hierarchy. So you can first of all pass your idea, you meet your HOD, head of department, to say, this is what I have. I don't know how you can help me push it. You know? So when your HOD is able to, you know, be on the same page with you, your HOD can then forward your idea, or she can just say, okay, let's go together to meet the administrator of the school or the school head or the principal, depending on the nomenclature for that person in that particular office. So when that person goes, you don't go there to impose. You know, you do it in a suggestive manner, as a suggestion. You know, because when you try to, no leader would want their positions to be antagonized. But when you put it in a way as if you are making a suggestion, they'll be willing to listen to you. But when you want to do it as if it's either this or nothing, they'll just dump it into the trash can. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Right.
So the point is, I think the whole point boils down to the manner of approach. Suggest, you know, not
Yeah.
imposing the ideas that we
Yes.
have. Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So my
You're
final question:
welcome.
as a strong member of LTAN, Lagos
Hmm.
chapter, to what extent,
Hmm.
to what extent can
That's
it be
strong.
said?
That's strong. It's really strong.
Yes, strong. So, as a strong member of Elton, emphasis on the
Okay.
strong member. To what
Okay.
extent said that associations are ensuring that the voice of their member is being heard during the course, the curriculum, and policy development?
Oh,
During the
beautiful. I love this question. I
Thank
love
you.
this question. Um, year 2000, yes, during the COVID-19, I even wanted to mention it, but I forgot somewhat. During the COVID-19, we as Elton members were invited, some of us, in fact, for the junior school, I was the team lead. That the new schemes of work that we are using in schools now were, pardon me, please, were redesigned by us. It took us close to a year, all that COVID-19 period. So there is a synergy between Eltan and Curriculum Services Department, who is in charge of the curriculum at all levels. So we were the ones that worked on it. And it gives me great joy when I see what we did, even when I'm using the schemes to teach, you know. I am happy that I was part of that. So that is one of the ways, that our voices can be heard. And of course, during reviews, we ensure, Mr. Tijani, if he's still here, he will bear me witness that we ensure that our teachers are invited to do the reviews for the books that are used, our literature texts that are used in junior secondary schools. So these are ways we synergize with the ministry. In fact, we were supposed to visit the commissioner recently, but for his schedule, so we are still trying to reschedule it so that we'll visit him and table some of our desires, some of our challenges to him, so that when they are having their own meetings, he can be our voice. Just like I said the other time that we have limited representations across the board. So when we have the opportunity to speak with those at the top, we seize every opportunity to talk to them. I remember during the late Honorable Commissioner for Education, Mrs. Folashade Adifisayo, the ex-Commissioner for Education, please, Mrs. Folashade Adifisayo, when she was there, we equally went to visit her and we tabled our requests before her. And she was able to give us, our ears, and one or two things were done in the aftermath.
Thank you again, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Before I go on, is there anybody that has a question? I believe she has tackled this session very well, but if you still have a question, I'll give room for one person to ask their question. You can just use the raise a hand feature on your phone. Okay, three, two, one, gone. Okay. Oh,
Okay, Olamide.
you probably has a question.
Olamide.
Yes, good evening, man.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So, without taking time, my question is this. Just as you rightly said at the beginning, that you know about 4 persons who have already
I didn't quite get
left
that.
for.
Olamide, I didn't quite get that.
I said, just as you rightly stated, that at the beginning of your presentation, that you
Yes.
know about 4, not less than 4, who has left the country for greener pasture. So, in what
Yes.
way do you think we can still maintain a voice if we have some of our good ends, what I would tag as brain drain, still going on? How do we tackle this Japa syndrome?
That question is tied to the Nigerian economy. And we all know what the Nigerian economy is saying now. I think the only solution to that is people are talking about increments. If your salary is increased and your purchasing power is low, so what is the essence of increasing the salary? Do you understand? People are going for pastures. They believe that the naira is, the naira has been devalued. The US dollar, the euro, the pounds are higher. They can purchase more. So I don't really think there is anything we can do in that respect to stop people from traveling. I doubt it. Because in the present Nigerian economy, even if somebody is earning 1 million, it may not be enough in a month to cater for all the expenses, the monthly expenses. So the problem still, the buck lies with the government to do what is right by teachers. When government pays attention to teachers, by sometimes even the welfare of teachers, if a teacher has assurance that the health is secured, the teacher will put in his or her best. So it boils down to, I can't stop anybody. I can't tell anybody don't japa. That's the reality. I can't tell anybody don't japa. If you have the opportunity, japa, especially for the younger ones, because from the look of things are not going to change anytime soon. So the only thing is we will just keep on encouraging those of us who have decided to stay back, that one day go better. Let me use that pigeon balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man.
You're welcome.
I believe this question has been answered. Thank you again.
Which one?
Yeah. Mr. Olam, I believe your question has been answered.
It has been answered. It has been answered.
Any other question?
Okay, I think that's it for today's theme-based discussion. So
Okay.
This weekly theme-based discussion is a program that is organized by Everything Literature every week, and it's meant for our group to help us develop as educators and also bond as educators. I am Precious Olawale, and I host the session every Wednesday. Thank you for joining us today. I want to go through our weekly schedule briefly. So on Mondays, we have Plan, Ask, and Share. On Tuesdays, we have Trivia and Teaching Tips. On Wednesdays, we have Q&A session after our theme-based discussion. Today, we spoke on valuing teachers' voices towards new social contracts for education, and Mrs. Comfort really did a good job at anchoring that session. Thank you very much once again, ma'am. On Thursdays, we have our peer review and feedback. Then on Fridays, we have virtual reading club. On Saturdays, we have our virtual chat tagged "If I Were to Be the Minister for." So here you can share with us what plans you would implement if you were a minister in any sector of the economy in your country. So thank you once again for joining us in today's theme-based discussion. We'll have another one Wednesday, God willing, and I would love to see you there again. So till next week, stay productive, stay proactive. Have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, thank you so much, Precious. Thank you so much, Mama Ceejay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the honor.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Tijani, for joining. I guess Mr. Tijani has decided to just stay mute. Surely.
Okay, he's still there.
Yes.
Let me check.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Olatunji, for joining as well. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the day.